Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Apingo. I'm that Chinese history guy. Here we share the stories from the myths, legends and histories of the Chinese people, from the first creator to the last imperial dynasty. More than 6,000 years of stories, one video at a time. So if this is stuff and content that you like, you can help the channel out by giving us a like, a sub, a comment and a share. Now, before we start today's video, I have to let you know that it contains some controversial subjects and hotly debated historical facts. So, if you have to leave a comment in the comment section, I would ask that you leave comments that are civil and non-toxic, and basically just keep to the living room rule. If you don't know what that is, just behave as if you would behave in someone else's living room. So yeah, thank you so much in advance, and let's get on with the video. Now, similar to Pi Gan, whom we spoke about in the last episode, today's protagonist Jizi was also the son of King Taiding, a brother of King Diyi, and another uncle to King Zhou of the Shang Dynasty. The only difference was that when King Diyi was troubled over naming a successor, naming an heir to the throne, Jizi argued for naming Wei Ziqi, as this firstborn of King Diyi displayed a maturity far beyond his age, and he was extremely earnest in his dealings with other people. So Jizi believed that Wei Ziqi would be a very good ruler to stabilize the kingdom that has actually suffered from generations of external threats and internal social instability. Now, however, because Wei Ziqi was not born of a queen, so he did not have a legitimate claim to the throne, although he was the firstborn. So the throne instead went to Dixin, who later became King Zhou of the Shang Dynasty as we know him today. Now, although Jizi was not a supporter per se for Dixin to ascend to the throne of the Shang Dynasty, nevertheless he was appointed to the position of Grand Tutor when Dixin ascended to the throne. Now, that was mainly due to Jizi's very well-known virtues and his knowledge. Now, although Grand Tutor was a very prestigious position, Jizi did not really hold any actual real power or authority in court. By contrast, his role was actually more consultative than executive as compared to Pi Gan. Now, we know that after his initial years on the throne, King Zhou slowly became more and more arrogant and more and more cruel. So it was said that when King Zhou, started in the very early stages, when he started believing in his own greatness, when he started drinking his own Kool-Aid and believing his own hype, and was, slowly turning from being a diligent and focused ruler into a cruel tyrant. One of the first indications of this change came when King Zhou, ordered his royal artisans to craft a pair of chopsticks out of, ivory. Now, when Jizi heard about this order, heard about this incident, he literally just sighed and said, one would not use a pair of ivory chopsticks to eat out of rough pottery bowls. Only the best rhino horn bowls and white jade wine cups would suffice to match the richness of these chopsticks. One would not be eating common meals out of such luxurious tableware. Only the most exotic ingredients and dishes would be contained in them. And when one has tasted such delicacies and all the exotic foods of the world, he would not be contented with wearing clothes made out of common cloth, nor would he be contented with riding on undecorated carriages or living in simple functional palaces. The opulence and extravagances will only increase from here. The kingdom will never be enough for a man such as this. Riches and exotic treasures will surely be plundered from afar to satisfy a single man's greed. Ivory chopsticks are but a start. I shudder to think of what is to come. Now, true to his predictions, and as we all know, King Zhou indeed became more and more greedy as he built even more extravagant palaces and gardens for his own enjoyment with his queen Daji. Now, while his subjects, his people were suffering, and he disregarded them all, and he continued exploiting them and squeezing them to fund all his excesses and all his luxuries. And when King Zhou finally got bored of what wealth can buy him, when he got bored of all these luxuries and opulence, he started finding satisfaction and enjoyment in torturing and killing people. Now, of course, as we've discussed in the previous few episodes, Jizi, together with the other loyal officials and ministers of the Shang court, tried countless times to advise the king against these indulgences, to advise the king against his cruelties, to advise the king, against his exploitative policies. But they all fell on deaf ears. Now, things came to a head when both Bi Gan and Wei Ziqi failed in their attempts to counsel the king against his actions, with Wei Ziqi being so disappointed that he left the kingdom with all the worship implements of the royal household, as we've discussed before, because I guess he had foresight. So he, made his way out of the capital, made his way out of the kingdom with all the worship implements in an attempt to at least be able to preserve the ancestral worship rituals should the kingdom and the dynasty really fall, which, it inevitably happened in the end. Now, when that happened, Jizi's friends and his colleagues asked him to follow Wei Ziqi's example and just leave the kingdom, rather than staying behind and risk his life, admonishing the king and pointing out his mistakes. Now, Bi Gan was able to get away with all that because the king and him shared quite a close relationship since, the king was a young boy. Now, however, Jizi did not have that luxury, and he was well known to have supported Wei Ziqi for the throne instead of the current king. So, one can kind of guess at the relationship dynamics that's going on behind the scenes here. However, Jizi refused to leave, and he refused his friend's advice to leave, saying that leaving the kingdom just because the king would not listen to his advice, it would just embarrass the king while winning him personal accolades, and that was an act of disloyalty that he was not willing to commit. And of course, we know that his insistence on staying and continuing to point out the king's mistake landed him in the dungeon with all his hair shaved off, and he only managed to escape death by pretending to have gone mad in jail, tearing off his clothes and blabbering nonsense to anyone who would come close or even listen to him. And it was said that the only solace that he could find while he was behind bars was to express his sorrow and his disappointment through playing the 7-string qin in his cell. And Jizi, spent the rest of the remainder of the Shang Dynasty in the dungeons, and he was only released from captivity after the Zhou people successfully overthrew the Shang Dynasty. Now, it was said that when the Zhou people entered the capital, when they finally conquered the Shang capital, Zhou Wu Wang, or King Wu of Zhou, found out that Jizi was held in the dungeon, so he ordered his uncle, Zhao Gong, or the Duke Zhao, to release Jizi from the dungeon. And knowing Jizi was a virtuous man with a vast knowledge of governance and administration and basically policies, King Wu humbly sought Jizi's advice on how to rule the land, and he expressed his wish for Jizi to serve the new Zhou dynasty and the new Zhou court. Now, Jizi's ideas and his advice to King Wu of the Zhou dynasty is recorded today in the Hongfan chapter of Shang Shu, or the Book of Documents. But he was unwilling to be a subject, much less to serve the people who overthrew his family and his family's dynasty. So he decided to leave the Zhou kingdom and he traveled northeast with 5,000 other subjects of the old Shang Dynasty who refused to serve or stay in the new kingdom. So yeah, Jizi, together with his 5,000 strong giant migrant convoy, left and they traveled northeast until they reached the coast at Jiaozhou Bay, where they built rafts and crossed the ocean, continuing in a northeasterly direction. And when they finally found land again, it was a beautiful paradise on earth with clear flowing streams and large green plants and, all manners of birds and animals that, roam freely across the land. Having found this beautiful piece of land, Jizi and his 5,000 followers then settled in this new virgin land and named the place Chaoxian. And when King Wu of Zhou, Zhou Wu Wang, when he got news of Jizi's new settlement in the far northeast, he decreed that Jizi shall be the king of this new land of Chaoxian, and he would not be a subject nor a vassal of the Zhou dynasty or the Zhou kingdom, nor did they have the obligation to pay homage or to pay tribute to the Zhou dynasty. Now, according to the records of the grand historian, after conferring the title of King of Chaoxian on Jizi, King Wu actually invited Jizi to return to the Central Plains to visit and tour the new dynasty's kingdom. And it was said that Jizi actually gladly accepted this invitation, and during his visit, Jizi actually passed through the old Shang capital at Zhaoge, and seeing that his old home and the old seat of his family's power, now overgrown with weeds, deserted and in disrepair, Jizi lamented the outcome of his nephew's refusal to accept good counsel, bringing about the downfall of this once great dynasty. Now, speaking about this new kingdom of Chaoxian that Jizi and his followers founded, where was it? Where is it located? Well, actually, it was located in the northern parts of today's Korean peninsula, and it would be known by later historians as Gija Joseon, which was believed to be one of the early founding dynasties of ancient Korea. Now, there are conflicting accounts of whether Gija Joseon was an actual early founding dynasty of Korea, with one school of scholars arguing that Gija Joseon actually replaced Donggun's Go Joseon in modern-day Korea, and another school of thought placed both kingdoms coexisting at around the same time, with Gija Joseon being just a minor state to the west of the old Go Joseon, having relatively little influence over Korean culture and civilization development. However, there are some archaeological discoveries, archaeological finds that indicated that while the metallurgy and the shapes of the weapons between the alleged location of Gija Joseon and the early Zhou dynasty of China were different, the forms and the functions of ritual implements and everyday living essential tools were remarkably similar in terms of design and uses between these two places. Now, Jizi, also known as Gija in Korea, is believed actually to be buried in Korea. However, the Gija mausoleum located near this Pyongyang city at the foot of the Moran Hill in the Moranbong district was unfortunately dug up and destroyed in 1959 under the orders of Kim Il-sung of North Korea, who went on to declare that there were no human remains found in this mausoleum. Now, Gija Joseon would survive for more than 1,000 years before being usurped by Wei Man of the Yan state around 194 BCE, after which he established the Wiman Joseon. Now, during his existence, Gija Joseon is believed to have enjoyed pretty close diplomatic relationships with the Zhou dynasty, and after that, the Spring and Autumn period states and the Warring States rulers. And although there are not many written records of these relationships between the two kingdoms, once again we can look to these archaeological discoveries that prove that at least trade between Gija Joseon and the Yan state, which was located almost to the far north of the Zhou dynasty's map, trade between these territories were very frequent. In fact, all the way up until the end of the Warring States period. Archaeologists have dug up currencies that were used by the Zhou dynasty territories. They found these currencies. They dug up these currencies in archaeological digs in what they believe was the former site of Gija Joseon. So yeah, we found currencies from the Central Plains. We found currency from ancient China in archaeological sites in Gija Joseon. So yeah, regardless of whether Gija Joseon was actually an actual early founding dynasty of Korea, or if it was just a minor state to the west of Dangun's Go Joseon, the documentary records and the archaeological discoveries show very clearly that there was an actual kingdom founded in the north of the Korean peninsula circa 1040 BCE, and it enjoyed close relationships with the ancient Chinese peoples of that time, at least until 194 BCE when it was usurped or overthrown. So I understand that the topic of Gija Joseon and its role in Korean history is kind of controversial, and scholars are still, having their debates over this, the role it played. And I'm not a scholar, nor am I an academic, so these debates and this figuring out what really happened is up to them. All I am is just a guy on YouTube sharing what I found in the course of my research. And to be very honest, I would be very, very interested to hear or read about your viewpoints, especially if you're Korean. Let me know more about this relationship between Go Joseon and Gija Joseon, and let me know in the comment section if you like, and just remember to keep civil and keep your comments non-toxic. But yeah, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts and your point of view. Anyways, that's the story about Jizi and his supposed founding of Gija Joseon, or Jizi Chaosian. And I hope you liked the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. And if you did, the best way you can support this channel and keep the lights on around here is to sign up and be a patron of the channel. And you can do that through the link in the description box below. Now, if you are not ready to make such a commitment yet, it would also greatly help the channel out and help with the algorithm if you could just give us a like, sub, comment and share. And I am eternally grateful to your help and your assistance in keeping us going. Now, I guess that's it for today, and we still have a couple more episodes coming up regarding the Shang Dynasty, or the end of the Shang Dynasty. So, I will see all you beautiful people out there in the next episode.